A pastor who serves faithfully for 10 years in one place is unusual these days. A pastor who serves for 20 years is a rarity. But a pastor who serves for over 30 years in one place, faithfully in this day and age, well, that's almost unheard of.
Remember those who led you and spoke the word of God.
I remember the first time we met,
Pastor Matt was right there alongside of me, cheering me on.
Karen discipled us during our senior year.
One of the main shapers and influencers of ministry.
To what Matt did in
God
life.
used Matt Rastusha as a faithful
I hope
pastor.
we'll be able to spend more time together.
Fun to experience life with you.
I'm prompted by the Apostle Paul, where he, in reference to the Philippian church, said, I thank my God upon every remembrance of you. So I say to you, Matt, I thank my God for every remembrance of you. The easiest way for me to say thank you and honor Pastor Matt is to delineate the various relationships that we have. Matt, I've narrowed it down to 5. Number 1, shepherd. Your godly oversight of the flock.
It's been incredible watching you become the man, the pastoral man that you are today, and to see you really lead this community for so many years.
Shepherd the flock of God that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly as God would have you, not for shameful gain, but eagerly, but being examples, never domineering over those in your charge, those in your flock. That's Matt Rastusha.
Matt helped me to understand that God, far from being some crusty curmudgeon who only listened to us when he had to, and only if we were praying certain things, was just somebody that I could have a conversation with. And Matt kind of shepherded me through that process of building that relationship with my father, which has held me in good stead for decades.
Both Matt and Karen have such a love for the gospel and for the church, and a deep concern for how our church testifies to the broader Princeton community and to the world. Matt has built many collegial relationships over the years in Princeton, including with the local police and local religious leaders.
Of course, many will know of your decades of service as chaplain to the formerly Princeton Township Police Department, and the relationships you created there and the many people that you helped on the front lines of our police department. Also, your work through the Princeton Clergy Association. You were always ready to join with faith leaders in our community and pray for one another, pray for our community, and pray for the world.
2, example. Your example as a follower of Jesus, as a person who truly loves the Lord, follows hard after him, and seeks to walk in his ways. Your modeling as a husband and a father, your prioritization of those responsibilities and the various callings in your life.
Listen, you love your church. You love your church. And even more than your church, you loved your sons.
You always worked hard to be a father first to me, and I really appreciate that.
But I always knew that second to God alone, loving mom was your highest priority. I hope that I can love my wife as much as you love mom.
As college students in PCF, Matt and Karen discipled us during our senior year.
When we began dating, they were the ones who prodded us to be transparent with one another about our intentions for our relationship. I still remember when they asked us if we had discussed the M word.
We were the first couple that they prepared for marriage, and they set an example for us of intimate marriage, a unified ministry as they did that.
What a great help it has been for us to be pastored by 2 people who are so loyal, loving, and respectful to one another, and so devoted to their children and grandchildren. We were blessed to walk in their footsteps as we raised our own children. Watching them has been like a course in family and work balance for ministers of the gospel.
3, partner. Whether it was deliberation around the building and relocation, interaction around worship, sermon subjects, the choir, delegate relationships, how to motivate, how to lead, you've been a valuable and trusted partner.
We were candidating at Westerly Road Church back in 1989 Denise and I were there with our little daughter, Katie, who was about 5 months old. And when we heard Matt preach on that Sunday morning, it was so amazing. We thought we wanted to come and be part of this church. And that's in spite of the fact that Westerly Road Church's youth room was a moldy mess of a building. When I heard Matt's sermon on that Sunday, both Denise and I felt we would like not only us, but our family to be exposed to Matt's preaching. And that's one of the main reasons why we came to Westerly Road Church.
Another aspect of Pastor Matt's vision was when we were relocating from Westerly Road Church to another property. Pastor Matt's vision in terms of keeping ourselves there led us to the present location. First of all, you recall that when we were negotiating, we had another property and on Bunk Drive itself with Thompson Land. It was a rockier place, but we felt that given our vision to stay in Princeton that was there, but Pastor Matt kept insisting, look around, there's another place right around the corner also belonging to Thompson Land. And we said, Pastor Matt, that's already been taken. There's another group and it's under contract. And he kept praying and you know what? A miracle happened. That contract for the other piece of property fell through. And this is how we are in the present location at Stonehill Church on a hill. A beautiful location, a beautiful property. And this was as a result of Pastor Matt pushing us and praying and his vision of being in this particular place.
We went to Haiti together. Haiti happens to be the country of my birth. And it was just so good for me to show you what poverty in Haiti looked like and where I grew up and the kind of history that the country has. And I remember you preaching and working with me and understanding the culture there. That was just really special to me. And I really valued that. I also remembered when I came back after serving in Haiti post the earthquake and how just broken I was and having seen so much from the earthquake. And I just remember standing at the pulpit and you stood there with me, you cried with me and you held my hand. And as I was sharing in testimony about my experience, I remember you being there and you holding space with me so that I could fully be present. And I really valued and appreciate that.
4, counselor. Matt, I am grateful to the Lord that you have been there with sage biblical advice around family issues, marriage issues, career issues. We have wept together and rejoiced together, always affirming God's presence and goodwill in all circumstances.
I grew up in the inner city, and because I grew up in the inner city, I had a pretty tough side to me. And Matt was very curious as to what impact did that really have in my life. And so I tried to serve as kind of a sounding board for Matt for what might it be like to be in a world where you had to be careful of where you went, when you went, how you went. And Matt and I had many, many good dialogues. Matt and I often talked about God's ability to care for anyone in whatever situation they found themselves in.
When I think about Pastor Matt's impact on students in our church, his curiosity, humbleness, and love for the Lord comes to mind. I cannot overstate his influence on college students in our church. In this day and age especially, college students and young adults like myself are looking to follow leaders that are authentic, that love the Lord and his people. Pastor Matt embodies this like no other. As one of Pastor Matt's monthly armor bearers, I had a front row seat to observe him and perhaps take notes on his conversations. He remembers the small details, prays for you on the spot about an exam, healing, or difficult trial, and he is ever so faithful to trust and exalt Jesus Christ in his preaching and life.
A few years later, I found myself back in Princeton, serving in a fledgling ministry called Manna, which had been serving the Asian American community. I realized that I needed a mentor to help me navigate this new world of ministry that I had entered into in Princeton, and the warm impression that Matt had left on me years ago had led me to contact him to see if he would be willing to meet with me regularly. During those weekly exchanges, I would come to him with my list of questions regarding ministry, and surprisingly, he would in turn come to me with questions about Asian American culture. Coming from a culture where the younger was expected to listen more than speak, I realized Matt was genuinely interested in me and Asian Americans by all the questions he would ask.
From the first time I met Matt at Westerly Road, he had this ambassadorial aura about him. He carried the authority of Jesus, even in the way that he would go about engaging new people. I remember watching him remember names and stories like I had never seen before. The way he used his words and imagination to show people how the gospel story connected to their story was attractive and contagious. This was evident within our first two conversations as we would have discussion and he would ask questions about where I was from, what my story was, and how I had come to know the Lord Jesus. Matt would listen attentively to me and many others who had come down from Trenton and speak prophetically into the calling the Lord had placed on our lives.
And you intentionally built relationships, and you tended those relationships with prayer and with communication and with support. But you also asked for support and made yourself available to us to be able to be a colleague to you. And for that, I am grateful. You knew that ministry can be a very lonely calling. And thanks to you, it's been less lonely for me.
I saved the best for last. Number 5, friend. We have rejoiced and lamented together. Our times, although too few and far between sometimes, have always been sweet times of fellowship, encouragement, mutual affection, and affirmation. Times around a meal, usually in my office, or occasionally a conference together, have been rich times. An hour or two with you has always brightened my day. Matt, your longevity, 35 years, has enabled a deep friendship on many levels. Proverbs 18:24, there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Matt, on this one, that is friendship, Lord willing, the best is yet to come.
When we were in college together, we were young and probably did not take each other as seriously as we could have. So it was very encouraging to me to see how Matt grew spiritually, from being a baby Christian to a leader of the PEF to senior pastor of Stonehill Church. This struck me the first time we visited Westerly Road Church after Matt became the senior pastor. As we waited in line at the end of the service to greet the Restitution family, so many people greeted him with such affection and respect. I thought to myself, wow, I love my friend, and now I have to take him more seriously and show him more respect.
Before Matt was Pastor Matt, he was just a gullible goofball, open to new experiences and not afraid to embarrass himself. Back in those days, I had only read in books about this phenomenon of blushing. I learned what it looked like in real life when I watched and listened to his numerous attempts to speak Chinese. 很好. But even back then, Matt's tender heart and thoughtful word and deeds were always evident. The other reason we are so happy to be friends with Matt and Karen is Matt's love for all kinds of cuisine. We've enjoyed countless meals together.
Listen, anyone who's spent more than 15 minutes with you knows that you live life to the fullest. From the way you eat your food. Oh, Karen, what a heavenly repast. You have outdone yourself once again. To the way that you can get down to the level of a child and just be flat out silly. Look out, kids! Look out! It's the giant leg! To your eagerness to try new things, as you did on your recent trip to India. You have a zeal for everything life brings your way, from the extraordinary things to even the mundane things.
I know none of you will want to take these many years of ministry by Matt in this one place at your particular church for granted. But I suspect that we will all find out soon that we have in some way that we can't even think of, because in the days ahead, we're going to miss Matt.
So I just want to thank Matt for everything he did for me, for how he transformed my life.
I just want to thank you for all that you've done for me and all of the impact you've made in my life. Thank you so much.
Our whole family gives thanks for Matt and Karen for their long-term example of faithfulness, perseverance, and love for the people of God.
So congratulations on more than 35 years of shepherding Stonehill Church. And congratulations even more on more than 39 years of shepherding this guy.
Pastor Matt and Dr. Karen, I thank the Lord that I have both of you to imitate.
You, Matt, are the aroma of Christ to me. I love you.
Congratulations. I look forward to seeing the next chapter in your life.
And may God richly bless you and Karen in the next exciting phase of life and ministry.
We love you, and may God continue to bless all that you both will do for his kingdom.
Matt and Karen, we look forward to spending more time with you and walking together down the road God has set before us. We love you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
The peace of Christ be with you, Matt.
You're my hero. Love you lots.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
We love you. Matt, I love you.